friends, Ginny D here. A few weeks ago, I made a video where I put together some looks based on D&D class-inspired aesthetics. I will link it in the cards if you haven't seen it yet. It seemed like everyone's favorite look, including mine, was the barbarian grunge, and I got a lot of comments about the rage crop top that I made for that look. Honestly, it was so simple to make, so today I am going to show you how to make your own. You can put any words that you want on it, or you can unleash your inner barbarian and make one just like mine. I also mentioned in the video that I did kind of a crappy job on making this top, so this tutorial is also a great excuse for me to just take my time, pick my materials better, and just make a better version that I can actually wear day to day. Because really, it's only fair to the people around me that they be warned of the true feelings in my heart. That's my secret, Cap. I'm always raging, or at least for 1 minute, a few times per long rest. By the way, can you believe it? This video is sponsored by Skillshare. I just think it is so cool that Skillshare not only helps you learn new things by offering thousands of classes on a ridiculous variety of topics, but also by sponsoring creators like me, so that I can also teach you new things for free. That's putting your money where your mouth is, like, respect. I just finished watching a class called Garment Construction Introduction to Draping, which is taught by Anya Ayung-Chi, who is actually a Project Runway winner. I'm a fangirl, don't judge me. I like to watch sewing while I'm sewing. This class was a great in-depth walkthrough that would be perfect for anybody who wants to get into patterning their own pieces. She even talks about fabric choice and shows examples of what kind of fabrics work best for what kind of garments, which is crucial in sewing and something that I think a lot of beginner sewists could benefit from learning more about. A Skillshare membership costs less than $10 a month, and the first 1,000 of my subscribers to click the link in the description will get a 2-month free trial of premium membership. The process for making this top can be broken up into 3 parts: patterning, sewing, and embellishing. All told, I can whip out a top like this in about 1 or 2 hours, so this is a great afternoon project. First, you will need a stretch fabric. The stretchier it is, the easier it'll be to fit, but also the more of a pain in the ass it is to sew, so use your discretion. I'm using this white stretch knit. It's pretty see-through, so I'm gonna line it with the same fabric. I can get away with about half a yard of fabric for this top, but how much you need will depend on your own measurements. You'll also need iron-on letters. You can pick these up at any craft store in a lot of different sizes and styles. They are pretty cheap and very easy to use. Just make sure that you read the instructions on how to apply them. Lastly, you will need closures of some kind. My fabric is stretchy enough that I can sew up the back and just pull it on over my head, but I do need a closure at the neck, so I'm gonna use a snap. You could use whatever closure you want: buttons, hook and eye, ties, whatever's in your heart. And of course, you will need matching thread, a sewing machine or a serger, scissors, pins, and an iron, all the normal sewing stuff. I would also recommend that you pick up a stretch needle for your sewing machine if possible, because depending on the fabric that you're using the wrong needle could lead to a lot of skipped stitches and frustration. I saved my pattern from the first one, which I recommend that you always do when you make your own pattern. This crop top is just 2 pieces. I will make my pattern over again to show you how it's done. I'm using 1-inch Pellon True Grid for patterning, but you can use muslin or paper or whatever you prefer. Start by taking measurements. For the neck piece, just take the circumference of your neck and then add an inch or so to give you a seam allowance and room for whatever closure you're using. My neck is 12 inches and I wanted both seam allowance and enough overlap for a snap, so I'm doing a 14-inch length. It's up to you how thick you want your neckband to be. I wanted a 1-inch neckband, so I doubled that, and then I added a 1/2 inch of seam allowance on each side. That left me with a neckband rectangle of 3 by 14. Now for the top itself. Start by measuring from where the neckband will sit down to where you want the bottom of the shirt. Err on the side of making it too long because it is much easier to cut it down than to make it longer. I wanted my crop top to be 12 inches from neck to hem, so I started with a vertical 12-inch line. We're designing half a pattern and then cutting it on a fold so it's fully symmetrical. That means that this line is the center line and it'll go right down the middle of the body. Now measure all the way around where you want the bottom hem to sit. For me, that's 28 inches. Cut that measurement in half and then mark it from your center line at the bottom. This is the bottom of your pattern piece. Now we need to create what will basically be the armhole. Locate a spot that's 1 inch or 2 below your armpit, wherever you want the shirt to sit before it slopes up and joins the neckband. Now measure from your neck straight down to that line. For me, that's 6 inches. Measure that down your center line and mark it. Now, before we move forward, I want you to take one more quick measurement, and this is your bust measurement. For me, that's 32 inches, which is just 4 inches bigger than the hem measurement that I took. I'm choosing to just keep things simple and just make the back seam completely vertical, so the bust measurement of my pattern is actually undersized. I knew that even if the shirt was only 28 inches at the bust, my fabric would stretch enough to accommodate that extra 4 inches. However, if you are curvier than me and those two measurements have a much bigger difference for you, or if your fabric isn't quite as stretchy, you will want to allow for more room at the bust. So in my case, I'm drawing another line from that 6-inch mark that we just made, parallel to the hemline, and this line is also 14 inches, or half of that 28-inch hemline, which means that this line here at the back of the shirt is vertical. However, if I wanted to accommodate the bust measurement more, I would instead make this line 16 inches long, which is half of that 32-inch bust measurement, and the back seam line would be angled to connect them. I hope that makes sense. Now we need to create this sloping line that will connect the neck to the area that goes around the back. Start by halving your neck measurement because this bit is only on the front of the shirt. So for me, my neck measurement was 12 inches, so the top part of the shirt should be 6 inches wide. Now, halve that number again because we're working on a fold, and you end up with 3 inches. Mark that out from the top of the center line. Since the neckband is curved, we want this part of the pattern to be curved too, so it doesn't wrinkle. Just about ½ an inch of curve is enough to correct for this, so just kind of freehand it. The slope should level out about halfway between the center line and the back line, so in my case, about 7 inches. Mark that point and then freehand a curve or use a curved ruler to join that point to the neck. Ta-da! You now have a pattern! Add a ½ an inch of seam allowance around the entire thing and cut it out. Cut 1 of the neck piece and 2 of the main pieces, remembering to cut the main piece on the fold. If your fabric only stretches in one direction, make sure that you orient your pieces properly so that the stretch will be along the width, not the height. This would be a good time to test the fit of your pattern. Just hold one of the body pieces up to yourself and make sure that everything is laying right and looks right. Make adjustments as necessary before you sew the whole thing together. If you have a stretch needle for your sewing machine, now is the time to put it in. A stretch needle is designed to help your machine sew properly through a really elastic fabric. Also, if you have a serger, now is the time to break it out. Fold the neckband in half lengthwise and sew using either a serger or the stretch stitch on your sewing machine. Turn it inside out and then flatten the band so that the seam is in the middle of one side. Then finish the edges. I'm gonna do this by just turning the ends under about ½ an inch and then top stitching. Now sew the main body of the shirt together, again with either a serger or a stretch stitch, leaving an opening at the neck and an opening at the back. Use those openings to turn the shirt inside out. Now match up the back edges, right sides together, and sew. Time to connect the neckband to the shirt. Lay the neckband centered over the top of the shirt with the seam side up, so right sides together. Pin or clip the band to the neck and sew. To finish it off, add whatever closure you want to use at the neck. I'm hand sewing a big sturdy snap, my go-to closure. Try it on and make sure it's all good before you embellish it. Time for the fun part. We are going to put words on this thing. Locate all the letters you need and line them up on the shirt just to get a good idea of the spacing. If you're doing a particularly long word or you want to be extra cautious, you might even want to measure and mark where you want to place each letter. But I think it's very barbarian of me to be reckless. Follow the instructions on your letters to make sure that you get it right. In my case, I'm just going to lay a piece of scrap fabric over the letters and then go over them with firm pressure and a hot iron for about 30 seconds. Use your fingernail to check the corners to make sure everything is thoroughly adhered. You're done! You have crafted your own Barbarian Rage crop top, which unlocks the ultimate feat. Thanks, I made it. With this feat, whenever someone compliments your clothes, they have to roll a wisdom save or be charmed for 1 minute by your incredible crafting prowess and your impeccable sense of style. Also, thank you guys so much for 150,000 subscribers. It is blowing my mind. I can't even tell you how much it means to me that so many of you want to hear the things that I say and see the things that I do and just share the stuff that I make with me. Thank you for hanging out with me today. Make sure to subscribe for more crafting, more cosplay, and more tabletop gaming.